My husband had a big fantasy, and I agreed to fulfill it. But I didn't know that with every step I took, I would go much further than he ever wanted. Until I reached the point of losing my marriage, my children, and most of all, myself as a woman. You might think something like that could never happen to you. But listen to me, because I thought the same thing. And today I'm here. I am. And it all started with a simple couples game. My name is Vivian, I'm 45 years old, and I've been married to the same man for over 20 years. I'm the mother of 2 adult children. To anyone looking from the outside, I was just an ordinary woman from Mexico. I lived in a modest house, with a normal routine. No luxuries, but nothing extraordinary either. Like most marriages in the beginning, my husband and I lived with fire and passion. You know what I mean. But over time, our marriage became routine, more companionship than romance. I'm not complaining. I thought that was natural. You grow, you mature, you become more friends than lovers. That's what I believed, until life showed me I didn't know everything. One night, everything began to change when he shared a desire that changed everything. That was when I realized that marriage can hide secrets you're not prepared to hear. It didn't take long for the secret to come out. One night after dinner, we were lying in bed with the TV on, each in our own corner, when Luis turned to me and said, "Vivian, I want to tell you something." I thought it was something trivial, maybe a work story or a trip plan. But no, he took a deep breath and said he had a fantasy. Guess what it was? He wanted to bring another woman into our bed. I laughed nervously and said, "You're joking, right? After 20 years of marriage, you tell me this?" But he was so serious it scared me. I felt disgusted. It seemed dirty. I thought, my God, maybe I don't even know this man anymore. And it didn't stop that night. He kept insisting. No matter what, the topic always came back. When we fought, he'd bring it up. When we made up, he'd bring it up again. It was like a drop of water falling in the same spot every day. I kept saying no, but I got tired. I didn't want to do it. It felt wrong. But deep down I was afraid. Afraid of losing him forever. Afraid he'd look for it elsewhere. So I started to think, what if I say yes? Maybe he'll look at me with desire again. Maybe he'll be that man from before. Out of fear, I finally said yes. It wasn't my desire. It was a desperate attempt to save something that was already falling apart. I remember clearly the day it happened. My heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. I even helped choose the woman, a stranger, of course. We agreed to meet in a neutral place, and I kept repeating to myself, "It's just today, Vivian. Just today, and that's it." At first, it was very uncomfortable. I didn't know where to look or how to move. I felt like a stranger in my own room. But then I looked at Luis and saw something I hadn't seen in years. He was happy, truly happy. You know that sparkle in the eyes? That look of a man in love? Yes, but it wasn't for me. It was for the situation. And here's the part I never imagined. A part of me felt pleasure too. Not so much from the act itself, but from the power. The power of seeing him desire me again, of knowing I gave him that. Strange, isn't it? Like I'd lit a fire again, but with borrowed matches. When it ended, I was confused. Relieved it was over, but intrigued. He was thrilled, like a different man. I thought, maybe this was the key to saving our marriage. After that first time, I thought I'd done my part. Like, okay, Luis, I fulfilled your fantasy. Now we go back to normal, right? But no. He stayed excited, happy, almost rejuvenated. Inside, though, I started feeling something I couldn't explain. One day, while we were chatting, I half-jokingly said, "What if it were the other way around? What if we brought a man with us instead?" I said it laughing, just to tease him, you know? But he immediately got serious. He said, "Never. Never ever." And that's where it began. Arguments here, fights there, him insisting it was different, that he couldn't stand to see me with another man. I replied, "But you made me share you with another woman. What's the difference?" It was like I'd thrown a bomb into our marriage. And honestly, if he could, why couldn't I? Months passed, and I made sure the topic never left the table. I insisted, just as he had with me. Until one day, reluctantly, he agreed. When it happened, oh my God, it was intense. More than I'd imagined. And to my surprise, he ended up liking it too. I saw in his eyes that his old arguments about it being disgusting or impossible were gone. He was fully into it. That's when it hit me. The line between fantasy and marriage had broken forever. I realized I could now propose anything and he'd accept. After that, I thought it would stop. You know when you tell yourself, okay, I've lived this crazy thing, it's over now. I wanted to believe that, but it didn't end. It was as if a door inside me had opened and wouldn't close. I caught myself remembering every detail, every reaction, every sensation. Not just mine, but what I saw in Luis's eyes. That moved something deep inside me. Without noticing, I began to fantasize more and more. Washing dishes, folding clothes, sweeping the patio. And suddenly my mind was somewhere else. I thought, my God, what's happening to me? I wasn't like this. And here's the curious thing. Luis thought he was still in control, walking around confident, like he owned the game. But he didn't know a volcano was growing inside me. I wasn't thinking only of pleasing him anymore. I wanted more. I wanted that adrenaline again. Not so much for the body itself, but for the secret, the forbidden. I remember once we were at a family party, everyone laughing and eating pozole, and I smiled on the outside. But inside my mind was far away, thinking about doing it again, going even further. That double life started driving me crazy. I asked myself, am I becoming someone else, or is this the real me finally awake? Each day that door opened wider. I couldn't pretend it was just a one-time thing. I had tasted it and wanted more. It hurts to admit it now, but it's the truth. Inside me there was no more room to deny what I'd experienced. At first, I told myself, no, Vivian, it was just a phase. You'll control yourself. But every time I remembered that adrenaline, that chill in my stomach going back felt impossible. My body craved more, even if my mind said no. I started with small lies. First, a harmless excuse. I'm going to see a friend. Then another. I'm going to the gym. I even laughed to myself because I hadn't set foot in a gym in years. But Luis either believed me or pretended to. Funny or tragic, I don't know, how one gets used to living in two worlds. In the morning, I was there making coffee, caring for the house, smiling at my children when they visited. Everything seemed normal, even boring. But at night, I invented an outing and transformed. The pleasure wasn't just physical, it was psychological. It was delicious to feel I had a secret, that I was deceiving, living something only I knew. I'd look in the mirror before leaving and think, if they only knew. That feeling dominated me more than any caress. Then it struck me. I was living two lives. One was family Vivian, the exemplary wife. The other was a woman even I barely recognized, but who grew stronger every day. I didn't know which one would win. I started seeing all kinds of men just for the thrill, without my husband knowing. At first it was just desire, that nice tingle in the stomach, the adrenaline of cheating, the madness of the forbidden. But one day, in the middle of an incredible encounter, something happened that changed everything. The man finished, got dressed calmly, and before leaving, left some bills on the table. I didn't understand. I asked him, "What's this?" And laughing, he said, "It's for you, for your company." I looked at the money, and honestly, it was more than I earned in a week of odd jobs. In that moment, I felt torn. Part of me wanted to give it back. Another part grabbed the bills like salvation, and I thought, if I'm already taking risks, already lying, why not make this something that at least pays the bills? That was when it really hit me. I wasn't just living a fantasy anymore. I had crossed another line. I'd accepted money. And once you accept it once, there's no turning back. Like biting the hook, you're caught. One abyss calls to another, one sin to another. After that day, other men began to offer money, and without much thought, I accepted. It wasn't just for pleasure anymore. It was for the cash. Easy money, fast, addictive, and for something I enjoyed, with men more handsome than the last. I lied to myself. It's just to cover a gap here, pay a bill there. But deep down, I knew I was prostituting myself. And that's when everything began to fall apart. No matter how much I tried to hide it, the contradictions came out. Odd schedules, messages I forgot to delete, excuses that didn't add up. And Luis wasn't stupid. Maybe he pretended to believe me before, but not this time. One day he followed me. I'll never forget it. I'd said I was having dinner with a friend, but really I was meeting someone at a cheap hotel on the edge of town. I went in thinking everything was under control, but when I came out, there he was, standing on the sidewalk. His look pierced me. I felt my body freeze. He didn't need to yell. His silence said it all. When we got home, he exploded. He broke things, shouted everything. "You cheated on me. You sold yourself." His rage was so great I couldn't even look him in the eye. That same day, he packed a few things and left without looking back. Worse, he told our kids. They were adults. But hearing their father say their mother was with other men and even took money was like a sentence. I stayed there, alone in the middle of the living room, in pieces, trying to understand when a silly fantasy became a nightmare. And the truth is, there was no turning back. Luis had discovered my double life, and now I had to pay the price of my decisions. After Luis left, my house became sad. I walked through the rooms and felt every corner remind me of his absence and my children's. Our big bed was empty, the extra plate on the table. The silence weighed more than any scream. The kids wouldn't even listen to me. They were ashamed of me. I called, sent messages, begged for a chance to explain, but nothing. It was like I was dead to them. And let me tell you, there is no greater pain for a mother than feeling her own children are ashamed of her. The neighborhood got ugly too, with the judgments you can imagine. I'd walk down the street and hear, "Look at her, ended up a prostitute." Each word cut like a knife. I tried staying home, but it didn't help. The shame followed me inside. And worst of all, I had nowhere to run. No husband, no family, no respect. What was left? Only the life I had chosen, and I stayed in it because there was no way out. All the doors had closed, leaving only the dirtiest, most painful one. That's when I understood I had lost everything. Not just my marriage or my children. I had lost my identity. I wasn't the old Vivian anymore. I was only what people said about me. A cheap woman, sold, carrying the guilt of destroying a once beautiful family. You know, I spent a long time asking myself when I got lost. At first it seemed like just a couple's game, a fantasy to spark the flame again. I thought it was only that, but no. I played with fire too long, and now I see it clearly. The problem wasn't his fantasy. Everyone has fantasies, right? The problem was the hole I dug inside myself when I let it become a vice, a madness of a grown woman. I don't know. All I know is I didn't know how to stop. I always wanted more, and in the end that more became my abyss. Sometimes I think, if I had said no, if I had held back, maybe I'd still have my husband by my side, my children close. Or maybe everything would have fallen apart another way. We'll never know. But there's one thing I do know. There are desires that, when fulfilled, don't unite. They destroy. They start as an exciting game but become something diabolical. And I don't say this lightly. I say it because I lived it in my own flesh. The problem was never just his fantasy. The problem was that I let that fantasy become my prison. Today, I live from prostitution. Not because I dreamed it, not because I truly chose it, but because after everything that happened, I see no other way out. The fantasy that began as a game ended as the sentence of my life, and that's why I want to leave a warning, especially for the women listening now. Be careful with the doors you open in a marriage. Not all doors can be closed again. Some look like just a game, but hide dark forces you can't return from. I know many will judge me. They'll say, "You wanted it, you accepted it, you chose it." And yes, at some point I chose it. But I also got lost in that decision, and when you get lost, it's so hard to find the way back. Today, when I look back, I see that I didn't just lose my husband or my children. I lost the woman I was, the life I had, the dignity and respect I carried. Everything is gone, and that is the saddest thing for a woman to see.